Tonight we are making chili for dinner, and I'm going to make up a recipe to go with it. I want to make a cornbread-esque muffin because muffins are easier to store if there's leftovers, and also easier to release because we're not using conventional cornbread ingredients. In fact, there's no corn in this at all. In place of cornmeal, I milled some millet grain. You can also buy this already ground. And I'm starting out by roasting the squash, which I thought I was going to use in some chili. But as you can see, I was really checking it out up close. It looked really dry and old. So I didn't think it'd be good for that, but I thought I'd roast it up anyway, and I ended up adding it into these muffins. All my ingredients out here in an attempt to make this easy and quick because I want to get into the oven. One and a half cups millet. I will link the recipe below, the inspiration recipe. I changed a few things, added a few things, but if you're curious for the other one, you can put that below too. This was in the freezer. It's a little clumpy. So that was a cup of almond flour, a quarter cup of tapioca starch. I imagine you could use any starch here. Arrowroot powder, cornstarch, maybe. Of course, we're trying to avoid corn. So, quarter cup tapioca starch. A quarter cup cassava flour, which is a nice one-to-one substitute for all-purpose flour, so you could use that. Should you have a problem with corn, but not wheat. I have a problem with both. Half a teaspoon baking powder. Half a teaspoon baking soda. Quarter teaspoon salt. So that's all of my dry ingredients. I love the millet as a substitute for corn. It gives us the right color. And sometimes appearances are everything. And I don't know, it feels like corn somehow to me. Maybe it has the right texture. It's possible to get it to that same cornmeal type of texture. And I like the flavor too. I'm just crumbling up some of those clumps of almond. That almond flour is kind of old, and I keep it in the freezer, so it sticks together a little bit. Okay, now let's get our wet ingredients. So here I am using that squash that I baked, that I thought acorn squash. I thought I was going to use it in my chili dinner, which I'm making tonight, right now. But it seemed very dry. So instead, I blended it with kefir for the liquid portion of this recipe. It's pretty thick. So if this batter is way too thick, I might add some water. Or I could add any kind of milk. In my case, dairy-free, so almond milk or cashew milk or coconut milk, but water is just as easy. Or I could use more kefir, but kefir is a little thick. Okay, so 1 cup kefir, and this kefir will give the acid to react with the baking soda and powder. The baking soda, I guess the powder has its own acid. 1 egg. a 1/4 cup oil. In this case, I used lard and just melted it. So you can use any kind of liquid or solid fat. If it's a solid fat, just melt it first. I have a lot of lard and I thought a bacony flavor in corn muffins would be fine. I'll use the same tablespoon I used to measure the lard, to measure the honey. And that comes right out. And 1 teaspoon of vanilla. It smells so good. I'm going to use 1 more egg. That was a small egg I had, and the squash makes things thicker, so more liquid is good. And I don't think it hurts to have more binding elements in a recipe that doesn't have any gluten. So. I did end up adding some water, and this is the consistency I got to. It was perfect.